Okay, guys, so today we're going to cover Supreme Power. Now, Supreme Power is basically the origin of the Squadron Supreme. Now, the Squadron Supreme is a group of characters that kind of have been asked for me to cover on my channel for a while now. And I always just put it off, kind of like, I don't want to, I'll come back later to it. But I felt like we should go ahead and basically do it. And the reason why, because Squadron Supreme is actually a group of characters that Marvel made to just basically represent the DC's Justice League, so that they can have the ability to have the Avengers fight against the Justice League. But of course, without going over to DC Comics and asking DC, hey, can we use your characters? And so, for example, every single character on this team is basically representing a different member of the Justice League. So like Hyperion basically represents Superman. Now, with that being said, the Squadron Supreme comes from a different Earth. Now, before I kind of begin to dive into this series, I do want to explain one thing. There have been different versions of the Squadron Supreme over the years in Marvel Comics, since like the 1960s. And honestly, I don't know how many different versions are there out there in the Marvel Multiverse, but we have seen a few of them. And usually you have fans attach themselves to a particular version that they actually like. But today, we're going to sit down and actually cover the one that came out of Marvel Max. So Marvel Max was a way for Marvel to basically say, hey, let's see if we're able to make more adult comics, which of course they did. And of course they sold. And with these adult comics, you could tell more dark stories, more expletive stories. And so they had a lot of good success with Marvel Max. But of course it came down for another series, and they said Supreme Power. And Supreme Power was kind of like the perfect way to say, hey, let's tell the origin of the Squadron Supreme. Now, of course, this team right here could be from any versions of the Squadron Supreme. But either way, though, this is Marvel kind of sitting down and giving us the origin of these characters finally, and also telling some good stories about these characters and the Marvel Multiverse, but really on their Earth. Now, when we actually dive into Supreme Power number 1, we actually do pick up with the origin of Hyperion. Now, at first, it does seem like his origin is basically the origin of Superman, and because he does represent Superman in Marvel Comics. But here's the thing though. Because Marvel wants to make sure that this is not a Superman write-off or a copycat, they kind of have to tell his origin a tad bit different from Superman. And so right now, even though you have the idea that his origin is basically kind of like Superman, where you have Hyperion right now flying through space, he crashed on Earth, he crashes in a farm area, he's found by some random couple, they're happy, well really the mom is happy, the dad's kind of like, this is weird, a random spaceship just fell out of the sky and there's a baby inside of it, red flags everywhere. But of course the mom is happy, of course they take the child in, and you would think that means, okay, they're going to raise him like the Kents did when it came to Clark Kent. But of course, that right there is not actually going to happen, because this is where things are going to change. Because of course, even though the couple found a spaceship, they found the baby, they took him in back to their house, of course, they are confronted by the government, because this was a spaceship that flew into Earth, basically crashed on Earth on America's soil. And so, of course, America is kind of like, we have basically watched the entire thing fall out of the sky, and of course we came for it, and of course we know it's that baby right there. So y'all have two choices. Give us the baby or basically die. And of course they gave him the baby, and of course the baby is Hyperion. Now of course you do have the American government basically say like, okay, we have this baby. He was in a spaceship. It crashed on Earth. And of course, we have no idea where in the world he came from and all the different powers that he could basically have. And of course, we don't know if he does age up, will he develop more powers down the road? They don't have any answers at all. But of course, they know that with this baby from space is on American soil, they can basically claim the baby as an American project or American property. Now, with that being said, of course, they're kind of like, we have to raise the child, but raise him in the American way. And so, of course, they're going to put the baby in a house. Now, this house is going to be placed in the middle of nowhere. Of course, you're going to have a lot of trees and all that stuff. But of course, that entire area is going to be closed off by the American government, the military, to make sure that nobody will have access to this child except the government and, of course, the two people who are going to raise the child. They're going to raise the child in a way to kind of make him believe that, one, he is American, but two, he's also in a loving family. And so that is the moment we're going to find out that his name is going to be Mark Milton. But of course, they're calling this project Project Hyperion. And of course, kind of saying that his name down the road is going to be Hyperion. But either way, they're going to raise this child in a closed off area with these two fake parents to make sure he grows up in the American way. Now, even though basically you do have these parents raising this kid in this closed off area, you do have a lot of different cameras right now kind of focusing on him to make sure they can watch him and see what could actually happen to him as he grows up. Now, I do want to mention the parents are the two people who were assigned to raise Mark Milton, Hyperion. They have to realize that their life is basically over. Like, they're not allowed to kind of leave their position. They have to stay in that house and to basically raise this boy in the American way to make sure he's raised in the way that the government actually wants him raised as. Now, of course, while you have all these cameras watching him and the parents watching him, you do have the military say, okay, let's give him a puppy, because that's what typically happens in American household. You get an animal, a pet, a puppy or a cat, whatever. And so, of course, they gave him a puppy. Now, you would think this is going to be a cute moment. With this puppy, he's going to have a friend, a close ally. But of course, that right there does not happen. Instead, what does happen is that you have Hyperion powers activate. Now, he's still a baby, but when his powers does activate, of course, he basically uses heat vision and just vaporize the dog completely. So the dog is completely dead. Now, of course, after that, we do see a quick page where basically time has passed by. And of course, with time passing by, we do see Mark Milton actually grow up. But of course, the American government wants to make sure that this is going to be a character who's going to be very loyal to the American way. And so, of course, a lot of things that Mark Milton watches on the news is basically news about other countries doing different things wrong, and of course, making America look great. Is to make Mark Milton fall in love with America, to fall in line with the American way. Now, of course, with time passing by, that means you have certain people leaving this project behind, but also people joining this project. And so, of course, we pick up now with President George Bush, the first Bush. And right now you have Bush kind of overlooking this project. And at this point right now, you have the American government still studying the spaceship that actually brought Hyperion to Earth. Now, of course, while they're studying it, of course, they're going to find out that basically this ship wasn't built. It was organic. It basically developed the way it did over a certain period of time. It wasn't built like most spaceships are built. Now, on top of that right there, they do find the power source to Hyperion ship that had brought him here to Earth. And of course, when they do, they find some kind of crystal. Now, this crystal apparently responds to anybody's thoughts when they're basically touching the crystal. And this right here is going to be very important down the road, actually. But then we continue with the origin of Mark Milton, Hyperion, and where he came from. Here's the thing though. Earlier we saw his spaceship just flying through space and that was it. But of course we had no actual origin of where planet he came from. And so out of nowhere you have the military or the government say they have some kind of recording. And of course with this recording they see some kind of spaceship in the middle of space. And of course, they see a escape pod that's leaving the ship as the spaceship basically blow up. Now, of course, right off the bat, we can tell that escape pod was Hyperion when he was a baby. But here comes the big problem though. One, what planet is he from? Two, what happened to the rest of the crew on that spaceship? Because of course, even though it did blow up, could have some survived the explosion? And three, who recorded this? Because with that angle, that means somebody had to sit outside a spaceship and basically record it as a whole vessel blew up and an escape pod left, of course, carrying Hyperion. And so, of course, now the question is, who was recording it though? Now, of course, we actually jump back over to Mark Milton, aka Hyperion. And right now you have Mark basically talking to his father. Now remember, this is not his biological father. This is a father that was given to him by the American government or the military to basically help raise this boy, Mark. But of course, for Mark's sake, he believes that this is actually his father. And the woman in the house, that is actually his mother. But either way, though, this is the moment we see that when it comes to Hyperion, more powers have emerged. That basically he has developed more powers. Like, of course, supervision, super hearing, probably X-ray as well. Matter of fact, he does have X-ray. And so, of course, he is able to see a lot of different things miles away. And of course, it does bring up a lot more questions for Mark. Like one, where is he from? Two, why in the world is he sheltered away from other people actually? Three, why are there guards outside the actual area that's blocking him and his supposed family off? Like, what in the world is going on? Now, this is also Mark saying, like, listen, I know that if I want to leave, nobody could basically stop me. And of course, he shows them that he has the ability to fly. But then he asks his mom or dad, sorry, his dad, but he does ask his dad, do you and mom actually love each other? And the dad says, yes, we do. Now, of course, that is a lie. But of course, he wants to tell Mark that story because, again, it's the American government or the American military wants to make sure that nothing compromises Mark at all. And so, of course, you have the fake dad say, yes, we do love each other. And so with that, it's Mark saying, fine, as long as you guys love each other, but love me as a son, I'm going to stay here and I'm not going to leave the area. Now, that is the moment where we basically jump over to the Deep South. Now, when we do, we actually pick up with a lady known as Miss Abigail Stewart. And right now, she's basically happy that she was able to find a babysitter. Now, of course, when she does find a babysitter, she does explain why it has been so hard to basically keep one. That her son is all over the place. Now, she also tells the babysitter, like, hey, listen, my son almost died a long time ago because he had some kind of rare disease. But of course, he was able to fight against it and he survived. But of course, she does say that her son is kind of a fast mover, kind of hinting at the idea that basically he might have super speed. But of course, outside, we do see that he does have super speed when he is trying to race his dog. This is Stanley, and of course, he'll become a character called Blur. And so as we dive into the second chapter, we basically pick up with Mark Milton right now, who's right now with a teacher. Now, this is actually very important. And the reason why I say that because it's really more of the American government trying their best to continue the idea to say, hey, Mark, you are a normal American kid. Yes, you have powers, but we want to make sure you have a normal American life. And of course, most kids in America, they go to school. And of course, they have teachers. And so they're trying their best to kind of give him that normal American life. The problem is, though, It's just him and his teacher. It's one-on-one. It's kind of like he's being homeschooled, which there's nothing wrong with that. But you'll see why this is actually somewhat important. But in the middle of this class session, he does begin to use his heat vision. And he's able to kind of control it and basically pinpoint it to where it wanted to go. And of course, he burns the book that his teacher is basically holding. And of course, he scares her away. But the reason why I pointed out earlier about a problem with him being homeschooled or him having a one-on-one session is because basically right now you see him kind of talking to his father after that class session. And of course, he tells his father that with his x-ray vision, supervision, and all that other super stuff, that basically he's able to see children miles away. And so, of course, there's other kids out there in the world that he has no interaction with. And of course, he never had that interaction. It's been him, this fake mom, and this fake dad in this military bubble. And that's basically it. And so, of course, he's now asking his father and mother, it's time for me to actually have friends. It's time for me to basically interact with other people because I can control my powers. I will not let my powers go out of control. It's him trying his best to convince his dad, but honestly, the military to say, okay, maybe we should give him a little bit more normal American life. We basically kept him away from the entire world. So let's slowly kind of give him things. Now, yes, you do have the American government agree that maybe Mark should deserve some kind of normal school life. The problem is, though, they want to make sure that they can control this school session. And so what they do is that they take a bunch of nephews and nieces from different people in the military or the government and kind of force them into this school program that was literally just made for Mark. So honestly, this is not a normal school. This is a school that was made by the government. And of course, the kids in this school is literally just nephews and nieces of people in the government system. And on top of that, of course, it all has to be hush hush. No one can tell anyone in the world about this at all. Now, you have Mark going to this fake school in a tank. So even though they're trying their best to kind of give him a normal school life, he's popping out of school, this fake school, in a tank. Now, we actually jump over to a psych ward, and of course we pick up a character known as Phil. Now, Phil has been at this facility for 14 years, and of course 14 years ago was the time where Hyperion arrived on Earth with his spaceship. But basically, he has been at this ward for 14 years because he keeps having this flashback, playing his mind over and over and over again. And of course, in his mind, he has seen the death of his wife and apparently his unborn child. Now, he keeps saying, though, he didn't kill his wife or his unborn child. But of course, when they found him 14 years ago, it did seem like maybe he did kill his wife and his unborn child. But we didn't get this flashback where, of course, him and his wife 14 years ago are just hanging out, and they see a shooting star. Now, this shooting star was actually the spaceship of Hyperion arriving on Earth. But of course, they make a wish, but some debris does fall on them. Now, with that happening, Phil's wife does go into labor. And when she does go into labor, she does give birth to a baby. Now, this baby does not look normal, but you didn't have Debbie, the wife of Phil, take her and the baby into the ocean, where of course she did drown. The baby did not. But you have Phil kept saying he didn't kill his wife or his unborn child, but he did say that his child looked nothing like him at all. And of course, everyone's still confused on that part right there. But then we actually pick up with a black family. Now, you do have this black family right now just kind of enjoying their night. And of course, they're also enjoying their new lifestyle. Like, they are coming up in a very nice way. Now, with that being said, though, as they're kind of just walking around, they are confronted by some racist people. And of course, they hate them because this family is African American. And of course, they do end up basically shooting the mom and dad. but the son stays alive, Kyle. And of course, Kyle had to watch his parents be shot and murdered because the color of their skin. And of course, the killer just drives off and leaving Kyle alone and an orphan. But that is the moment where we actually do pick up with Joseph Ledger. Now, Joseph Ledger is known as the Doctor because he's very precise when it comes to his secret operations. But basically, he's been recruited for Project Hyperion. And the reason why, because they're hoping that with the Doctor, Joseph Ledger, they'll be able to get a better understanding of the crystal, which is the power source to Hyperion's ship. Because remember, guys, when it comes to Hyperion's crystal, of course, when you touch it and you're thinking of something, the crystal basically reacts to your thoughts. And so right now, it's the American government hoping that when it comes to the Doctor and his thinking ability, maybe he'll be able to overcome the abilities of the crystal, but to learn more about the crystal. Now, with that being said, though, of course, when he does grab it, he's able to kind of use the powers of the crystal to kind of make a blast into a certain direction. Now, of course, every time he does use the crystal, he does feel a very large amount of pain. But of course, he's just so tempted to keep using the crystal. And so he kept using it over and over again. Except the more he used it, it began the process of the crystal beginning to kind of merge with him. It combines to his body, to his right hand actually. And then he falls into a coma. Now we actually jump over to Italy, and the reason why, because you have two children bringing food as an offering to a tomb for a shrine towards a certain kind of princess who has been asleep for hundreds of years. Now, with that being said, as the children are leaving, they do hear a voice, and of course they're wondering what that voice was, but they heard someone say, "Something is stirring in the world outside." And of course, a hand does stretch out and of course grabs the offering and then leaves. And so, of course, this could be another character that is going to join the Squadron Supreme. Basically, Chapter 2 is a kind of a way to show us different characters who could possibly join the Squadron Supreme. But then we actually do see Mark at this school that was basically put together by the American government. Now, with that being said, of course, you would think that maybe Mark might meet somebody here, make a friend, and actually have someone to talk to. Because now he's finally been given the chance to actually interact with other children. But the problem is, though, these are teenagers, just like he is. And teenagers can be ruthless. And for Mark, who never had any kind of interaction with teenagers or kids or even toddlers or babies because he has been in that bubble, this process right here doesn't go so well for him because he has no idea how to talk to them. And of course, he's always staring at people. And of course, that freaks them out. And so, of course, you have everyone kind of like keeping their distance from him because how scary and awkward he actually is. And so when Mark goes back home, you do have Mark tell his parents, "Hey, I don't want to go there anymore. No, I'm done with school. Like, I can't fit in. Like, there has to be somebody out there I can actually bond with, but those kids at school right there are not the ones." Now, basically, it's the way for Marvel to say that Mark is looking for friends, someone to kind of talk to. But of course, it's the other characters we have been seeing in the background who, of course, are other members of the Squadron Supreme. Now, as we dive into the third chapter, of course, we actually pick up with Mark Milton getting ready to meet with the president. Now, at first, he's kind of waiting outside the office while you have the president talking to one of his advisors about Mark Milton. But of course, you have the advisor realize that Mark Milton may have super hearing and of course could hear their entire conversation. But either way, you do have the president basically invite Mark Milton into the Oval Office. And of course, they do have a conversation. Now, this conversation is really more of the president saying, "Hey, listen, we have basically spent a lot of time and money on you. And of course, I feel like it's about time for you to pay it back. Now, it's not the president actually saying that, but of course, he really means that. And of course, you have the president tell Mark, we're going to send you on a mission. And of course, you have to be fast and quick because we want to make sure that you stay a secret. But of course, the mission going on could technically help us kind of stop one of the many countries that we are fighting against. And I think it's Iraq or Iran in this storyline. But either way, though, you do have the president tell Mark Milton to do this mission. And of course, you have Mark really down to actually complete this mission because he has been trained and taught and lived the American life so much that of course he's like, yeah, I'm down. Give it to me. Now, of course, when he does go on this mission and he does meet up with the team, of course, you do have this military team tell him, okay, here's your targets. This we need to go to, and this is what you need to do. But you have to be fast and quick. Do you understand? And of course, he's kind of like, yeah, I do understand my mission. And of course, I'll be able to actually complete this mission. Now, here's the thing, though. He does go in there fast and he does basically complete the mission. But of course, while you have the military men watching him do his work in that operation, they see how fast and strong and what he's actually capable of doing. And of course, it freaks them out. And so when he comes back, they're like, okay, yeah, mission is done. And he's like, okay, I'm going to leave now. But they're so scared of him because how powerful and how much a threat he could be if he actually turns evil. Now, of course, after that operation, you did have the American government use Mark Milton for different kinds of operations across the world. And so, of course, you had the American military being able to win a lot more battles against Iraq, Iran, and other countries that they are currently facing. Now, with that being said, though, we did pick up with Jason Scott. Now, Jason Scott is your reporter who's kind of realizing that even though the American military is able to win a lot of battles against Iraq and Iran, nobody in the military is kind of owning up to these accomplishments, taking the claims for these victories. And so, of course, it's kind of Jason saying there's something going on behind the scenes. On top of the idea, it's very strange on how the American government is basically being able to win these battles against Iraq and Iran. These operations are going too well. And so, of course, he's kind of doing some more digging because he feels like there are a lot of secrets out there that are not being told at the moment. Now, you do have Jason Scott actually meet up with a lot of different people who may have an idea about how the American government is able to win these actual battles or these operations. Now, really, these are some unique people. And a lot of things they are saying do not make sense. But one person does. And that is the lady we saw at the very beginning of our storyline who had basically found Hyperion when he crashed on the Earth. And of course, she does tell Jason like, hey, we found his baby in a spaceship. But of course, the American government came in and took him away. And that was it. And so, of course, it's her kind of saying this to Jason. He's kind of like, that's very interesting. I'm going to keep everything you just said to me in this notebook right here. But of course, it's still Jason trying to fish for more information that can actually help him figure out how in the world the American government is able to do all of this. Now, we actually do see Jason meet up with a CIA agent. Now, the reason why, because this is Jason just trying to find more information about this project Hyperion. And of course, this CIA agent has been doing a lot of good things for Jason over the years. And so, of course, it's Jason coming back to him like, I need your help. I basically need you right now to figure out what in the world is Project Hyperion. And of course, it does not take this agent that long to give information back over to Jason so that he can tell Jason, look, everything in this folder basically tells you what is Project Hyperion. And hopefully it's everything you need. But of course, once you blow this coverage across the world, as soon as you tell anybody about this at all, and they ask you, where did you get this from? You did not get this from me. If you tell the world you got it from me, I will kill you. And that is it. But now Jason knows a good amount of information about Project Hyperion. Now, you do actually have Jason go see the same lady we saw earlier who had basically found Mark Milton all those years ago to hopefully gather more information about what she saw and what the government did to her and the baby. But of course, they always kept an eye on her just in case she decided to basically spill the beans on Project Hyperion. And of course, now the government knows that basically Jason Scott is about to blow this story and tell the entire world about Project Hyperion, or what he might know about Project Hyperion. And so, of course, you do have the American government say, how about this? How about we feed him information? But of course, this is a way for us to kind of control this story so that basically it does not backfire on us and have the public actually hate us. And so, of course, you have them say, that's a good idea. Let's send in Mark Milton, Hyperion, and let him talk to this guy. And hopefully, as they talk, they'll basically be able to change the story a tad bit into our favor. Now, of course, after they were basically able to kind of control what the reporter Jason can say to the world, of course, it's the American government kind of painting this picture that they did nothing wrong, which of course was keeping this huge secret from the world, from their country. And so, of course, you have the media kind of surprised about this big announcement. You're talking about the idea of a super weapon, a human or alien, really, sorry, who's a super weapon, who has all these different powers. And of course, we have to realize they have no idea what could be Hyperion's weakness yet. And so, of course, right now, you have this powerful weapon just out there in the world being able to do whatever he wants if it comes down to it. But for right now, you do have Mark Milton kind of under the control of the American government. And of course, you do kind of have them doing different kinds of press conferences around the world to kind of show off this guy. Like, hey, this is Hyperion. This is Mark Milton. This is our secret weapon that basically we have been using to kind of help us out with different kinds of military operations. Now, we actually do jump over to Jason Scott. And right now, you have Jason Scott actually meeting up with his editor. Now, when he actually does, of course, this is Jason saying, okay, listen, I feel like I've been played. That basically I was only given information that the American government wanted Hyperion to basically share with me so that they control the media. But of course, he's kind of like, they're still keeping a lot of secrets from us. And of course, we have no idea what those secrets are. And so, of course, it's Jason saying I should have asked more questions. But the problem is, though, I know the questions I wanted to ask, Hyperion could not answer because Hyperion does not know everything about him at all. He only knows parts of his origin, and that's it, but not the complete origin. And so, of course, it's Jason saying the government is hiding things from Hyperion and also hiding things from us. But you also have Jason saying on top of that, he feels like there are other characters out there with abilities. And the reason why he says that because in the south part of America, somebody was running around at Mach 2 speed. The problem was, though, Mark Milton was nowhere near that area at all. He was nowhere near that area because he was with the president doing a press conference. And so it is basically Jason saying there's other people out there with abilities. And of course, their abilities can do a lot of different things. And so you have Jason say it has to be more people out there with those abilities, and maybe the government actually knows about them. And of course, you have Jason say, I have to find them. And of course, he's talking about Stanley, the one we saw earlier, the little boy, but now probably older, running around the South Part America at Mach 2 speed. It's Blur. And so this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, I'll see y'all next time. Later.